Thou shalt not let thy senses make a playground of thy mind. Thou shalt not separate thy being from being and the rest, but merge the ocean in the drop within the ocean. So shalt thou be in full accord with all that lives. Bear love to men as though they were thy brother pupils, disciples of one teacher, the sons of one sweet mother. Of teachers there are many. The master soul is one, Alaya, the universal soul. Live in that master as its ray in thee. Live in thy fellows as they live in it. Before thou standest on the threshold of the path, before thou crossest the foremost gate, thou hast to merge the two into the one and sacrifice the personal to self-impersonal, and thus destroy the path between the two, antaskarana. Thou hast to be prepared to answer Dharma, the stern law, whose voice will ask thee at thy initial step, hast thou complied with all the rules, O thou of lofty hopes? Hast thou attuned thy heart and mind to the great mind and heart of all mankind? For as the sacred river's roaring voice, whereby all nature sounds are echoed back, so must the heart of him who in the stream would enter thrill in response to every sigh and thought of all that lives and breathes. Disciples may be likened to the strings of the soul echoing Vina, mankind unto its sounding board, the hand that sweeps it to the tuneful breath of the great world soul. The string that fails to answer neath the master's touch in dulcet harmony with all the others breaks and is cast away. So the collective minds of Lanu Shravakas, they have to be attuned to the Upadhyaya's mind, one with the oversoul, or break away. Thus do the brothers of the shadow, the murderers of their souls, the dread Dadugpa clan. Hast thou attuned thy being to humanity's great pain, O candidate for light? Thou hast, thou mayest enter.
Thank you. Next is the talk, and I'm going to share my screen for some slides. And that's okay. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. And hopefully they advance. If they don't, please speak up. Okay, today's talk is the origin and nature of evil in human life. This talk comes together as a collation of several theosophical articles on the question, what is evil? We all know what evil is. We've all experienced it or known it. But nonetheless, the question, what is evil, is a mysterious subject and of universal interest. How will we know how to conquer it when faced with it? Evil is continually presenting itself for discussion and action. It affects us deeply in our thoughts and speculations because it is so large a factor in human life and the cause of so much suffering and sorrow. Today, we'll examine evil from 4 angles. Firstly, from a cosmic perspective, evil shows itself as rooted in the contrast born of the great illusion of multiplicity, the one versus the many. Secondly, from a human perspective, we'll look at evil's presence in our own dual nature as selfishness versus spiritual wisdom. Thirdly, from evolutionary and ethical perspective, we see that life is the great pilgrimage of the monad, during which latent powers unfold stage by stage, and where separateness, the misuse of power or disharmony, arises. And lastly, we'll explore evil from a karmic perspective. We experience karma when the law of harmony restores itself. This is sometimes experienced as sweet, sometimes experienced as bitter, but always as an opportunity for growth and understanding. We'll begin our inquiry into evil at the widest possible level, the cosmos itself. HPB indicates that the problem of the origin of evil can be philosophically approached only if we look to the ancient wisdom, which solves the presence of evil in a satisfactory way. It attributes the birth of cosmos and the evolution of life to the breaking asunder of primordial manifested unity into plurality, or the great illusion of form. As homogeneity transformed itself into heterogeneity, naturally contrasts arose. The
Just
pairs
checking,
of
sorry,
opposite,
the slides are not forwarding. Are you forwarding slides?
I have forwarded one.
Okay, because we're still looking at that view, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it didn't seem like it had forwarded, but it looks like it is now. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. Okay. So the pairs of opposites, hot and cold, light and darkness, above and below, right and wrong, arise, producing pleasure and pain. Yet these are all illusions. Hence, heterogeneity, or what we call evil, thenceforward reigns supreme in this vale of tears. In this context, evil is not imagined as a dark power opposed to the goodness of a god. It is not a fallen angel nor a personal devil. It is a necessary condition of manifestation itself. Whenever unity expresses itself as the many, contrasts appear: light and dark, motion and rest, pleasure and pain, etc. Evil is the shadow side of this duality, inseparable from the field of existence. This explains why evil cannot be absolute. It is always relative, always arising in contrast to its opposite. Without darkness, we could not perceive the light. Without sorrow, we could not know joy. Without evil, we could not recognize good. As HPB says elsewhere, evil has no existence per se. It is but the absence of good, as darkness is the absence of light. But how is this teaching to be understood? The Eastern view distinguishes between eternal being and conditioned existence. Being, what Sanskrit calls sat, is beyond all dualities. Conditioned existence, however, unfolds within Maya, the great illusion of form. The Buddha taught that the craving for life, or tanha, keeps us bound to the illusions of this conditioned world. Evil is not in matter itself, which is eternal, but in the illusions created by its ever-changing forms. Life on this plane is ephemeral, and the evils we meet here are both unavoidable and necessary. They are the labor pains of consciousness in evolution. This helps us see why Eastern wisdom is never pessimistic. The Eastern sage knows one cannot simply end being, but one can end one's attachment to form. Suicide solves nothing. It merely interrupts the lessons of life. It's not truly ending anything. What must be ended is craving and selfishness, not life itself. As Blavatsky puts it, the Buddha gave us an example in living, not in running away from life. Another great truth emerges here. Evolution is not a straight decline from unity into scattered multiplicity. It is cyclic. The many returns to the one. Differentiation is matched by reintegration. As Blavatsky reminds us, evolution does not proceed in a straight line, but journeys on cyclically, as does all the rest. The cyclic serpent swallows their tail like the serpent of eternity. We see this cyclic rhythm in biology, in the life of cells, in the rise and fall of civilizations, and in soul's own journey. Matter divides and differentiates, but also reunites and reabsorbs. So too in consciousness. The soul descends into multiplicity, into countless forms, into the struggle of contrasts. But eventually it reascends, gathering the fruits of experience, and returns to unity enriched by wisdom. What then is the root of suffering? It is not differentiation itself, but the sense of separateness it breeds, the illusion that the many are cut off from the one. This is the birth of egoism. With egoism, every contrast sharpens into conflict. My gain becomes your loss, my pleasure, your pain. Thus, evil appears to dominate the world, though in truth is only the shadow side of a greater law. The law of contrasts, rightly seen, is a teacher. If good and evil illuminate each other, then even suffering becomes a means of knowledge. HPB is clear. Evil is not to be denied, but understood. It is real as an experience, yet illusory in its nature. The task is not to curse life, nor to despair of it, but to look inward and learn from it. If, she writes, instead of riveted eyes upon the earth, man centered his point of observation on the inner man, he would soon escape from the coils of the great serpent of illusion. From the cradle to the grave, his life would then become supportable and worth living, even in its worst phases. So the cosmic origin of evil is the inevitable shadow of differentiation. Its seeming power arises only in the realm of contrasts, and its sting is sharpened by ignorance and selfishness. To the wise, the very presence of evil points beyond itself. It points back to unity and forward to reunion with the one. This is the cosmic truth of evil. It is the shadow of manifestation, the illusion born of contrast, and the teacher that leads us home to being. Next, let us examine evil from a human perspective and understand its presence in our own dual nature as selfishness versus spiritual wisdom. The question of evil has perplexed humanity from the beginning. Religions, philosophies, pardon?
Are you advancing your slides?
Yes. Are you seeing them?
We just see the second slide.
Oh, okay. Let me go back to, there was from unity to multiplicity.
Yeah. Can you let us know every time you're changing slides so we keep up with you?
Sure, I'll just do it from this. If I do the slideshow, it doesn't seem to advance. So I'll just.
You'd have to share your slideshow screen instead of, you're sharing the, like this one app, instead of the other screen. It's fine as long as you just make sure you advance it over here instead of the slideshow.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'm just going to keep it like this because I don't want to monkey with it too much more.
Yeah, that's
fine. So the cosmic perspective is from unity to multiplicity, contrast arises. And then the law of opposites, that contrast lets us see both sides of everything, whether it's darkness and light, sorrow and joy, evil and good. And then she reminds us that everything is cyclic, so evolution proceeds cyclically, not in a straight line. And so we don't descend into evil per se in manifestation, but there are cycles within where it does seem more pronounced. And now we're on the human perspective, sort of the inner battleground. Let's see. Oh, okay. The question of evil has perplexed humanity from the beginning. Religions, philosophies, and sciences have all attempted to explain its source. Some have imagined evil as a rival principle to good, like a cosmic adversary. Others have declared it an illusion. But for us, as students of theosophy, evil must be understood both metaphysically and practically, not as an abstraction, but as a reality in human conduct and experience. The recognition that evil must be dealt with is one of the reasons people turn to religion in the first place. How we understand evil, its nature and root, determines how we think it can be overcome. If evil is seen as something outside of us, such as a devil or original sin, to be removed by someone else's sacrifice, then the means of salvation will be wrongly conceived as reliance on vicarious atonement, or the sacrifice of an objective person like a Christ figure. If evil is seen as within us, as selfishness or ignorance, or the misuse of our own powers, then salvation is rightly understood as an inner conquest and a personal transformation. The true conception of salvation might best be described in the exhortation of St. Paul in Philippians. He said, "Work out your own salvation in fear and trembling." The true crucifixion takes place within. It means nailing to the cross of self-discipline our selfish desires and hidden attachments, not only of the body, but also of the mind and heart, until they finally die away. When we begin to examine evil, we must first recognize that it's, as said, not necessarily a thing in itself, but rather the form which something takes. In this context, in particular, human behavior, whether it's individual or collective. Outside of such behavior, evil has no independent existence of its own. If that behavior were transformed into an expression of the supreme law of life, reflecting its beauty and harmony, evil would disappear. So the real question then becomes, when did this distorted form of behavior first arise? And how did it become fastened to human existence? Why is there not harmony and peace in our thoughts, feelings, and actions when man himself is their source and creator? We see that man shares with the animals the same basic drives, the need to survive, to find food, to protect himself from danger, and to reproduce. In animals, these instincts work in a straightforward and orderly way, and they follow their natural impulses only as far as they are needed in the moment, and then they stop. No consciousness of the future plays any part in the action of animals, leading them to lay up karmic store for the future, as we do. Nor do they modify in any marked way other uses of their instincts, while their intercourse with each other is simple and obedient to certain natural impulses. Man possesses these same impulses and instincts, but in addition, he has been endowed with another group of qualities of greater range and force: memory, the realistic perception of objects and acts, prevision, in other words, knowing that there's going to be a future and that one can influence it, and a more marked and greater range in the power of adaptation. So strong is this animal nature in us that it tends to assert supremacy over the higher faculties, pressing them into its service and subordinating them to its demands and needs. When the animal nature joined forces with man's higher faculties, his emotions and desires became far stronger and more vivid. Intensified by this wider consciousness, the animal self in man seeks to dominate the higher powers, using them to better satisfy and indulge its instincts. Yet, alongside the animal instincts, man has the higher principles. In its simple form as a unit of force, This principle is spiritual wisdom. Spiritual wisdom lights up the life, allowing one to see both ourselves and the world as they truly are, their purposes, paths, and destinies revealed to the inner vision. And this spiritual principle stands in direct opposition to the animal principle of self. Yet the two principles are found to exist side by side in the constitution of man. The one essentially of the flesh, the other infinite both in capacity and duration. And these two principles can't coexist without conflict, nor can they divide the field between the both of them. Each seeks to rule the core of man, the ego, and it is this ego that must choose to suffer or to rejoice, to decay or to continue growth in a spiritual direction. Okay, did I just jump? I just jumped. Hang on. Okay, here we are, the inner voice. The higher principle within man shows that he is meant for more than the mere life of an animal. At times, he glimpses a world very different from what the outer senses reveal. Gradually, he realizes that the life of the lower self is deceptive and hollow, and that it blocks the reconciliation of life's discords into true and lasting harmony. When a person begins to see these truths, the clash between the two forces within becomes even more intense, creating confusion and unrest in the heart. He cannot escape the discomfort and sadness this struggle brings, and sooner or later he realizes that a choice must be made, to firmly join his will with the higher principle, or to give in weakly and to be ruled by the lower animal self. If we look honestly and carefully at the facts just laid out about the centers of life and force within us and how the ego relates to and uses them, we can see plainly where evil comes from, what it really is, and what it leads to. There is something within us, or overshadowing us, that urges us to master ourselves and life by becoming true servants of the divine. For only by serving the highest do we stop serving the blind, self-centered forces inside. One cannot serve the highest principles and at the same time the forces of greed and self-centered desires. We also sense the overshadowing presence of divine wisdom. We would accept it, even flirt with it, but the lower forces feel nearer and stronger and we give in to them. Thus, voluntarily choosing the lower self, man determines for himself and his race the resulting future. Is it then strange that he should reap their natural fruits in sadness and dismay? Sow an act and you reap a habit. Sow a habit and you reap a character. Sow a character and you reap a destiny. Next, we'll examine evil from an evolutionary and ethical perspective, how its role as teacher teaches us through karma and how evil can be transformed. Here we shift from the cosmic and the individual to the field of evolution itself. Occult science teaches that there is no such thing as dead matter. Stones, metals, atoms, these are organic units in profound lethargy. Their rest is temporary and their life is latent. But behind all forms moves one universal, all-pervading life. If inorganic matter constantly becomes organic, and organic decays into seeming inorganic, then life must be a potency everywhere and not an exception somewhere. From here unfolds a decisive insight. Every atom is a center of experience. Every form houses a monad, a pilgrim of consciousness, slowly unfolding its latent divinity through cycles of embodiment. This same one life runs through all time and all lives undivided. In man, this pilgrimage reaches a turning point when self-consciousness emerges, and herein lies our ethical crisis. From below, self-consciousness seems the summit, the beginning of perfection. From above is the beginning of selfishness, the curse of separateness. The moment I make my private I the center, I create a private world. I begin to live against the whole. And that is where evil enters, not as a substance, but as a misrelation with the one life. To see how exact this is, look inside the body. Man is a congeries of lives. Every cell has a nucleus, an inward center. Every tissue is a community, and health is the harmony of these communities under the governance of the whole. A diseased tissue is one in which a group of individual cells refuse to cooperate. Disease of the very tissue of man's body is neither more or less than the sin of separateness. This is the ethical definition of evil, simple, concrete, and universal. Evil equals separateness, the refusal of a part to work with the whole, the enjoyment of private gain at the expense of the common life, the dethroning of law as harmony in favor as self as sovereign. This holds true in a body, in a family, in a nation, and in mankind as a whole. It is why arrogance, tyranny, and domination spread ever widening circles of mischief and move the actor further and further out of harmony with the law of life. But if evil is separateness within a living whole, then the cure cannot be merely private piety or flight from the world. The cure is reintegration, the actual restoration of proper relations in thought, motive, and deed. Occultism calls this a synthesis, seeing each part through the whole and ordering each part by its place in the universal hierarchy. The evolutionary arc of the monad's pilgrimage clarifies this. The monad descends into matter, gaining and gathering experience from monera to man. Having awakened self-consciousness, it must mount higher, beyond the private I, into the godlike nature. Beyond the pairs of opposites, into the knowledge that self, with a capital S, is the self of all. This is not poetry, it's practice. It expresses itself ethically as altruism and brotherhood, the laws of higher evolution. The custodians of this higher knowledge are almoners of the divine. On those planes, knowledge, power, and beneficence are all one. This is also why Theosophy has no creed and no dogma. Is not a set of opinions, but a synthesis of life. It asks us to learn how nature thinks, and that is cyclically, hierarchically, and holistically. And then it brings the discussion down to where ethics meets evolution in daily life through understanding karma and reincarnation. Why does Theosophy stress these doctrines? Because without them, evolution is a broken arc. Beginnings unknown, endings blind, justice nowhere. With them, evolution becomes the logic of what must be. Karma is the eternal law of action, and reincarnation is the boundless field for its workings out. Together, they ensure that no act of separateness is consequence-free, and no act of harmony is lost. Therefore, evil educates, not by decree, but by the unerring feedback of life upon itself. Pleasure and pain, gain and loss, these are the instruments by which separateness reveals its bankruptcy, and harmony proves its joy. Viewed cosmically, evil is the shadow of contrast within Maya. Humanly, it is the usurpation of intellect by desire. Evolutionarily and ethically, it is the sin of separateness, a disease of the one life. These three levels are one truth seen at different scales. The remedy, therefore, must also be threefold: knowledge of the real, self-mastery within, and altruistic action without. So where does this leave us in relation to evil? With a clear mandate. We should think synthetically, ask of any view or impulse, does it integrate me with the whole or does it isolate me? Does it heal cooperation or does it disease it? Second, practice hierarchical harmony. Let the ego truly be king, governing the lives within, the thoughts, passions, and habits for the welfare of the whole being. As within, so without. Govern strength by service, knowledge by compassion, will by law. Third, live karmically. Read every circumstance, favorable or painful, as instruction. Use reward to deepen responsibility. Use punishment to correct one's course. Either way, make separateness the lesson learned, not the habit strengthened. And fourth, choose brotherhood. Not as sentiment, but as the working principle of a universe that is, in truth, one life in many forms. Brotherhood is the ethics of the synthesis. This brings us to the final section in examining evil from a karmic perspective, that of punishment, reward, and opportunity. For many people, karma sounds like a grim doctrine, a cosmic stick forever waiting to strike. William Q. Judge corrects this with a simple liberating truth. Karma is not only punishment, it is also reward, compensation, and most importantly, opportunity. Judge writes plainly that the very language we use matters. If we refuse words like punishment and reward, we rob ourselves of the ability to describe obvious facts in human life. He says, it is therefore quite proper to say that an unhappy or miserably circumstanced person is undergoing punishment, and that the wealthy or happy person is having reward. Otherwise, there is no sense in our doctrine. Why? Because one branch of karma deals with the vicissitudes of life, the differing conditions souls enter, poverty or wealth, obscurity or influence, difficulty or ease. And these are not random. They are exact results of harmony or disharmony with nature's law. If someone experiences justly gained wealth in this life, it is because in a prior life there was deprivation unjustly borne, or merit honestly earned. That is reward. Or if you prefer Judge's alternate term, compensation. But Mr. Judge immediately adds the crucial caution. The use of a reward determines the seed of the next harvest. He says, karma will take care of him. And if he does not use the opportunity for the good of his fellows, or if he does evil to them, he will have punishment upon coming back to the earth. This reframes our questions. The central issue isn't why do they have what I lack, but what will I do with the powers and conditions I have? Wealth can bless or corrupt. Rank can serve or dominate. Talent can uplift or degrade. Karma gives us a field. Our motives sow the future harvest. The outer state we see of others is not the whole story. A person may enjoy great fortune and still be carrying inner punishments, obstructions and hindrances like stupidity, baseness, or strong sensual tendencies. Conversely, one may suffer outwardly, but inwardly possess clear judgment, moral stamina, and compassion, the beginnings of true freedom. In real life, we often meet both patterns at once. A person with wealth, outer reward, but chained by pride or cruelty, inner punishment. Another in hardship, outer punishment, but rich in conscience and endurance in a reward. So karma is multidimensional. It apportions both conditions and character according to the law of cause and effect. Our outer lot tests our inner stuff, and our inner choices write our outer future. Judge also rejects the lazy fatalism that sometimes disguises itself as karma. He reminds us that every man is endowed with conscience and has the power to use his life, whatever its form, in the right way. In fact, it is his duty to do so, and as he neglects or obeys, so will be his subsequent punishment or reward. Duty, therefore, is present tense. Karma is not a chain binding us to yesterday. It is a living law inviting us to right action now. Each moment has a door marked opportunity to repair a wrong, to relieve a burden, to align our powers with the good of the whole. Let's make this practical with 3 clear applications. Firstly, we can reinterpret our conditions. Instead of calling them luck or bad breaks, read them as precise feedback. If we have ease, is it a chance to serve more? If we have pressure, is it a call to strengthen our motive and purify our means? Either way, we can ask ourselves, what lesson of unity is this condition teaching me? Secondly, audit your rewards. Wealth, influence, talent, time, and health, these are karmic credits on loan to us. Use them to lighten another's load, and they become seeds of joy. Use them to exalt the personal self, and by the very law you count on, the joy curdles. Judge's point is clear. The arrow we fit to the bow of will, we let fly into our own future. Thirdly, always take care of our motive. Karma is exquisitely motive sensitive. 2 identical acts can differ karmically if one is done for show and the other for love. The law is moral before it's mechanical. As Judge says, in essence, it is not the bow or the arrow that counts, but the thought that will send it forth. This turns the supposed harshness of karma into mercy with a backbone. It refuses to flatter our illusions. It educates us. It refuses to annihilate our freedom. It dignifies that freedom. It refuses to indulge in cynicism. It insists that every choice matters and nothing is lost. Judge's closing note is deeply empowering. Karma is just, but is never jeering. It meets us where we are and moves us forward, if we will move. The question then is not, am I being punished, but what is this asking me to become? Not why me, but how can I serve here? So let this be the rule of our life with karma. Take what comes as earned without self-pity and without pride. Use what you have now as trust to heal separateness. And plant today what you will be glad to reap tomorrow. Clean motives, fair dealing, and quiet, steadfast service. Then karma will be revealed for what it truly is, the stern kindness by which the universe keeps faith with the soul. In conclusion, we have looked at the mystery of evil from 4 perspectives: cosmic, human, evolutionary, and karmic, each revealing another face of this profound reality. From the cosmic view, H.P. Blavatsky showed that evil arises with manifestation itself. When unity breaks into multiplicity and the illusion of separateness begins, contrast is born, and with it, the possibility of both good and evil. Evil is not a thing, but a shadow cast by the law of opposites into the world of form. Without contrast, there could be no awareness of light, goodness, or joy. From the human perspective, we saw that this cosmic law is reflected in our own nature. The animal principle of self-assertion joined to human intellect becomes selfishness and pride. Yet alongside it lives a higher principle, spiritual wisdom, the ray of divine love that sees unity instead of separation. And that true battleground of life lies within, between the law of self and the law of spirit. From the evolutionary and ethical perspective, life is a pilgrimage of the monad through countless forms. Every being holds the seed of divinity, and even error and suffering become lessons in the soul's unfolding. Evil is not the end of the story, but the resistance that strengthens the spirit and turns self-consciousness into divine selflessness. From the karmic perspective, Judge reminded us, karma is not punishment, but harmony restoring itself. Each sorrow or trial is both consequence and opportunity, a chance to learn, to correct, and to awaken compassion. And so we see evil is cosmically inevitable, born of contrast and manifestation. Evil is humanly experiential, arising in the conflict between self and spirit. Evil is evolutionary, a challenge that fuels growth toward divinity. And evil is karmic, transformed into opportunity by the great law of harmony. Our task is neither to deny nor to despair over evil, but to understand, transform, and transcend it, to meet it with courage, patience, and compassion. As the secret doctrine tells us, being is the only reality. When we live in the light of the one reality, evil loses its sting. It becomes not a fiend, but a teacher, a shadow cast only until we turn fully towards the light. And that concludes the talk portion. And we'll open it up for questions and comments. And I'm so sorry about the slides being a distraction.
That's okay. Thank you for the talk. I was thinking about the cosmic perspective, and in your talk, you said that it's part of the duality and it appears in manifestation. And I couldn't resist to contrast that thought with what we hear, or what we read in the Bible in Genesis, where evil seems to appear way past the manifestation, where it's divided in days, and when Adam and Eve are and Cyrus, are you familiar with the Bible, the Genesis story?
Not really.
No, okay.
You'll have to remind
It's
me.
Lucky you.
it talks about creation, right? Like
Mhm.
first day appears the light, and separates the
Mhm.
waters, and appears earth, things like that. And then another day is the creation of animals, and then after that is creation of men. And from man comes the woman, Eve. First, the man is Adam, and Eve comes out of his ribs. And this couple, that we can say the first to dwell the earth, lived in paradise. And when they encounter the tree of knowledge, they were thrown out of paradise. It seems that at that point, evil enters the thought, the mind of first dwellers on earth. And after hearing this lecture, like learning that evil appears at the very beginning, because we need that duality from a homogeneous state to a heterogeneous, and that duality is the evil. Is that right, Kathy? Is duality evil? I mean, the other aspect of things. But comparing to the Bible, evil appears much later. How can we reconcile those two aspects?
I'm not super familiar with the Bible story. I have heard the story of Adam and Eve, of course. But I think that's a much later stage than what, as you said, HPB is referring to in the cosmic realm, is that there's like the potential as soon as there is duality, as soon as there's any conditioned existence, and as soon as there are opposite poles, there's the potential for it. So we can't avoid existence in a conditioned manifested realm that is part of the obligatory pilgrimage that every soul is on. So in that sense, we can see where the potential comes in for it at a very high cosmic level. As soon as there's the pairs of opposites, light and dark, hot and cold, pleasure and pain, there's the potential for a cosmic representation of evil, in that it's a polarity of one side of a pair of opposites. But we do have to remember that they aren't truly separate. It's all one thing. You know, light and dark are two sides of the same type of awareness. So I began with that because it's sort of like at the widest possible level. And she said that we can only approach it philosophically if we look to the ancient wisdom, which satisfies it in a satisfactory way. The story of Adam and Eve is like, what's the word? It's a story. It's a metaphor, and it sticks with us because of sort of the characteristics that we can relate to. But at the birth of cosmos, and evolution sort of begins, the breaking asunder of primal unity into plurality, and there's the illusion of these pairs of opposites. So at the most ultimate level, we could say that's when it arises in this field of contrasts. But that's also why I think it was mentioned, and I found interesting, that evil can never be absolute because it's always relative to good. Therefore, it can only be perceived with its opposite. It has no existence per se. It's just if you were looking at one side of that coin, the absence of light is dark. The absence of good is evil. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
So, Kathy, does that mean that the potential for evil can only establish itself when conditioned existence takes place, basically?
Yes, and furthermore, the conditions, that's where the potential begins, but it only appears in sort of like, not even really at the animal kingdom, because they're acting purely on instinct in the moment. They have no consciousness of anything to come after what became before. So it's very in the moment. Really, the potential in conditioned existence comes about with self-consciousness, where people acting from the lower self bring about those conditions. And it's not like a straight line decline. It was said that there's these cyclic, everything proceeds cyclically. So there's like an external more separation followed by some reintegration, some absorption, and this keeps happening. But to return to the human perspective, we're at this point of the war of the personal self and the higher self within the individual. And it's only by experiencing good and evil, the contrast in embodied existence, that we come to understand that there's more to life. It makes us question, right? And that there is more to life, and that ultimately a choice has to be made to fix one's will to the higher self, or to let the animal nature take over. And then it's me versus others, and loss and gain, pleasure and pain. It becomes a real stage of battle and awareness of those observations.
Josh?
Yeah, I think I understood you to say that evil and good, like you can't have one without the other, as long as it's manifestation, the pairs of opposites. I guess my question is, are they always in equal amounts? Can we have more good and less evil? Are there times when there's more evil and less good? Like, how does the balance of good and evil work out? How does that play out?
Yeah, it does seem that we've all experienced, everything we experience has its, shadow side, if one wanted to look at it that way. So there are cycles where, whether individual or collective, where one predominates over the other. And some of that can be personal, like a person can be going through like a golden age, so to speak, while others are not, just like with nations and races. And evil is real as an experience, but it's illusory in its nature, in the sense that it doesn't exist on its own per se, this thing evil. It's attached to like human behavior. It's attached to conditions. It's attached to perspective. And the separateness that we experience because of differentiation is sort of the root in the human realm, one could say, because
Sorry.
oh, no problem. It takes on the form, if there was no evil behavior, then we wouldn't experience evil, so to speak. If there wasn't selfishness, the sense of separateness, that accentuates it.
Is it possible to eliminate those things while in manifestation?
Certainly it could be greatly reduced.
I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. It's like, if you can reduce something in proportion to the other thing, it sounds like you could eliminate it. But I think you're saying it can't be eliminated because you can't have good without evil. And yeah, I guess a little mixed up on that.
During a golden age, everyone would experience collective beneficence toward each other, oneness with the all of humanity. And it seems to this student that would be the height of like manifested good, eclipsing the evil, a sense of belonging. It's ultimately our sense that we're separate from everybody, causing us to act selfishly, brings about the results of disharmony that we experience on many levels. So, of course, karma is the central operating mechanism, you know, in our experience, but it's also part of the evolutionary field, right? So, yes, good could completely eclipse evil. Yes, evil could completely eclipse good. Those conditions could arise. There is the possibility for that.
I guess there's a potential in that condition of perfect good, the golden age, or you know, complete evil, or whatever that might be. It's not that as good increases, so does evil also have to increase. You can have a lot of good and a little evil. You can have all good and no evil. But as long as you're in manifestation, there's still that potential for evil. And even in you know, just to put it in the opposite terms, if you had a condition which was, you know, completely evil, there's still that potential for good.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and we have to understand like all the lives that are involved, you know, in our behavior. We're impressing elementals and different kingdoms of nature that are on their evolutionary path. So it's like all life is impressed by how we think and act. So if evil conditions were brought about, that would be the karma of harmony attempting to restore itself. So we ultimately have to rise above the pairs of opposites to the level of sat. So we have to be aware of evolution, but also ethical guidance is paramount. We have to like learn to choose brotherhood, not because brotherhood is the foundation and the source of all. So choosing to act as the one self puts us in the right perspective to avoid extremes of either or, because becoming attached to good is going to be just as limiting as, you know, being swept up in the bad when you get to the very highest levels of, you know, spiritual evolution preparation for, you know, fully experiencing, you know, like a Mahatma, the oneness of all life. So we have to see it like cosmically, and I think it said, I'm trying to find that part where we have to see the whole, but also understand that it takes place hierarchically and holistically.
Thank you.
I think along those lines, doesn't Krishna say something similar in the Gita, that we have to, he talks about the three qualities, right? Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So we have to rise above that as well. So perhaps we, as you said, we have to rise above both good and evil to be free of it.
Yes. Yes. I mean, the human tendency is like, let's just get rid of that one side of the equation, but it's not possible.
Yeah.
So we have to accept that. And that's why the Buddha gave the middle road. The path is the middle road. It's neither to one nor to the other, but to eventually, as you said, rise above. Rise above.
If the goal is to rise above both, and the experience of good might encourage attachment to life, tanha, and evil might encourage us to want to rise above, doesn't that make evil good and good bad?
It's a teacher for sure that came up in multiple, you know, articles, is that it is a factor that propels us to question and to come to a greater understanding. And as said, it becomes an opportunity.
It seems as though both are teachers, right? Good and evil. Evil prompts us to ask the right question, but we shouldn't be attached to good either. But that also leads to us bouncing back in the other direction.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So it's a conundrum. It's a difficulty that takes a long time to understand and to work out our own salvation, essentially. It's up to us to do this each individually and collectively, which is a tall order, and evolution is a long and winding road.
I think maybe that's why somewhere the Mahatma said, right? To be a good man is not good enough. You have to be a spiritual being to really understand the teachings.
Yes, exactly. Well said. Okay, I guess with that, we'll end it there. We're a little bit over time. Thank you all for your questions and thoughts, and we'll take a few minutes break and come back for the Way of the Bodhisattva.
Thank you, Kathy. Excellent
Thank
talk.
you, Kathy.
Thank you.